Shalom. Double honors to the apostles of GMS. Honest you brothers will be pushing this truth in sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. Be a quick video, a redo, as it were, of the video that I did last night to be exact, and the audio didn't come out as I would have hoped. So I'm gonna do this video again, and hopefully it'll get out to you brothers up there. Alright, and this is based off of a picture, a profile picture one of the brothers had. I took a look at and I found very interesting, and I've got some information and I'm going to get into some of the striking resemblance between the parallels that you had going on in the Roman Empire before it fell down and what you have now in the current American war, socio-economic and war fractions that you have out there. Okay, so without much further ado, I'll keep this as quick and as simple and as comprehensive as possible without trying to regurgitate too much information that's going to be boring. Okay, so the images, as you can see over here, alright, and this depicts the garrisons, right, which means military bases, I believe, that you have out there, right, American military bases that you have out there throughout the four worlds. And like I presented in the video that I did before, unfortunately the audio didn't come out, and I was in that spirit to do it, so I'm gonna try conjure up that same vibe in this one. So what you see here is the American military bases that America has put out there throughout the four corners of the earth, and what the image is depicting in a somewhat satirical fashion is the fact that you've got military bases pretty much surrounding the borders of Russia, alright, starting up from the top out here, right, upwards of Britain. I believe around here is Iceland and the Antarctic or something. I'm not so good with geography in that, but as you can see here, this is the Russian border here, and this is what you would know as Eastern Europe. Okay, yeah, that's correct. So Eastern Europe's got countries like Latvia, Lithuania, and so on and so forth going on down. One would argue you haven't got military bases going around this part of the perimeter of Russia, but if you see in the news, and if you've got good socio-economic understanding, then you know what the Russians and the Chinese are doing right now. They're doing joint military exercises, right? They're doing joint business ventures, all right? And you have it to where people living in China right now, all right, getting up, in the morning, going to work, and they're working in Russia, and vice versa, all right? So they're doing joint military, joint finance, and joint business ventures together, right? Which means to say you can consider this one and the same entity. Okay, and what Russia is pretty much trying to do, they're trying to stabilize their economy, and the same thing with China. They're trying to stabilize their economy by having it to where they're dependent on Russia and Russia dependent on China. Okay, and so with that understanding taken on board, then you really understand that America's got their military bases around their perimeter of all, really, of Russia. But really, when you go into the depth of it, the Soviet Union, the old Soviet Union, all right, and the addition of China, you got that perimeter of American military bases all around, all right. And when you take the world map and you roll it up and you make it into the world, right here is the same point here, all right, which means that end, that barrier over there, okay, is that starting point over here, the end of the perimeter of Russia over here. That's the beginning over here. So you can see it, man. All right. So what the image is saying here, man, look how close they put their country to our military bases, which is the ways that Esau conducts himself onto, man. All right. You go up and blow up a city or a town or a country, all right, and say it wasn't his fault. And this is the original image that you're seeing over here. All right, it's the actual image that I saw that inspired me to do this video. As you can see, this is like a zoomed in version of this, because you can see this image is got its focus on Iran. Okay, and I can't quite remember how much this one star is supposed to represent, but you can see those little stars. I think it's about maybe a couple of tens, maybe even thousands of troops on there, but it's a military base, and what these represent is what countries that they're in. So the star represents the country that they're in. I don't know what the size of the star implies, but you can certainly see that these stars go by country. So you can see one over here, one in that country, one in that country, one in that country, one in that country, but it doesn't represent the amount of military bases they have in that country. And so when you zoom in into that area, you can see you got one in Turkey over here, right, and you got that air base over here, that air base, sorry, not that air base, you got that military base, you're going to have military bases and air bases, right, bases where you can have big what do you call it, with a lot of air clearance, so you can have them big planes come in there with reinforcements and so on and so forth. And you can have those slightly smaller bases where you can only have maybe a helicopter come in there and resupply certain things. But you can stand without a shadow of a doubt that all of these military bases is going to have some form of ballistic missiles, whether it be nuclear or non-nuclear, whether it be tactical or non-tactical, okay, right, whether it be mass or not mass destructive nuclear weapons, okay. So like you can see here, that's all the military bases they have around the perimeter of Iran. Right, you heard it. They gave the go ahead to make them Iranian nuclear facilities and so on and so forth, and nuclear bomb and so on and so forth. And you can see it says, look how close they put their country to our military bases. Right, and again, like I said, man, that's just a satirical way of putting Esau's deeds out there, man. All right, and just like how the scripture says just like how it says in the scriptures, man. All right, your skirt's gonna be lifted up. People gonna see you for who you are, man. That you are the devil, all right. And you make it look like it's everyone else's fault but yourself, all right. But ultimately, you're gonna be destroyed, man. And that's a damn beautiful thing that the Most High has set it up that way, okay. All right. So, like I was saying here, right. So you got all of these bases. They, when you zoom in into that area, you're gonna have. You can have any kind of setup that represents this, man. So those represents countries. This was actually happening on the ground, man. This was actually happening on the ground. You can see it right here, man. If you're trying to get from to and fro, man, you ain't gonna be able to. All right. And without much further ado, let me jump into this article and then I'll close out. Like I said, I'll keep it nice and short and sweet. All right. So this is entitled 8 Striking Parallels Between the U.S. and the Roman Empire. Right, the U.S. government and the Roman Empire, which we know through the scriptures, namely where it talks about there's nothing new underneath the sun. All right, that dragon that had that deadly wound, as if it was to death. Roughly paraphrasing off the top of my head. All right, that's the same thing you got out here. That's the same thing that this information is showing. All right, so it says here, staggering increase in cost of elections with dubious campaign funding sources. It says our 2012 elections reportedly cost $3 billion, and the point that they're trying to have emerge here is the fact that when you had the Roman Empire, right, they had it to where all of their campaigns, right, that they were doing towards the completion of the Roman reign, right, before you had the Holy Roman Empire. Right, they were beginning to be of a staggering, right, and like it says here, with dubious campaign funding sources. It says all of it was raised from the private sources, and one thing to point out about the private sources, right, that private source, when you usually talk about private sources, you could be a lot of different businesses, all right, of which the business could be, a 30 100 million pound business. A $10 billion business, sorry, all right, $30 billion business, all right. But those little separate entities that compile together to make what as the private sector, all right. Really, when you go and you follow the money through, right, it's them so-called Jews. Ultimately, it's those elite banking families that stand behind them. Meaning to say, the legislation that's being passed by way of the elections, the people that you're picking, and people you're putting in office, in the Congress, and so on and so forth. As it's going to show you, it's heavily influenced by the private sector. And like I just said, the private sector is what we know as the elite banking families, them so-called Jews. So who's really deciding them laws and what's happening out there? Some so-called Jews, man. All right, and that becomes very evident and very apparent when you see what the people are eating. All right, what they're watching on their TVs. All right, how dumbed down and docile the people are, man. All right, so that becomes ever apparent. All right, what legislations is being passed, like taking away the guns from the populace. Okay, it says during the late Roman Republic, elections became staggeringly expensive with equally deplorable results. It says Caesar reportedly borrowed so heavily for one political campaign he feared he would be in ruin if not elected. And that's self-explanatory. So this is the second point. It says politics, as the road to personal wealth. It says during the late Roman Republic, one of the main roads to wealth was holding the public office and exploiting such positions to accumulate personal wealth. So someone would seek to be rich and powerful in that, and in so doing they would go down by the way of politics. But as it's going to say here, they had, because they went down that road, but they needed funding to get into there. They would have had a lot of influence coming from them elite banking families. All right, it says there, as Lesage notes, congressmen, senators, and staff leverage their government services to move private sector positions that pay 3 to 10 times their government compensation. It says given this financial arrangement, their focus therefore is not so much on the people who sent them to Washington. Their focus is instead on those that will make them rich. Now this is the important one that kind of ties in with the article, rather more the pictures that you've seen here, and elaborates on the same points. It says continuous war, and this is a state of continuous war, ultimately World War III. This is a state of continuous war. Now what is the title? It says striking parallels between the US and the Roman Empire. And what they're alluding to here, it says is our republic coming to an unceremonious end. History may not be on America's side. And what does the scripture say? Call to remembrance the old ways, the old path. When you study the history, really you begin to get into what's happening in the future. You pick up on certain patterns, and that's what this article was alluding to. And it says here, continuous war, a national state of security arises, distracting attention from domestic challenges with foreign wars. It says, so they ain't fixing the people or fixing the country up. They're interested in their external factors. Wars that are happening outside their boundaries, their borders. It says similar to the late Roman Republic, the US the last 100 years has either been fighting the war, recovering from a war, or preparing for a new one. And lists a small selection of those with World War I, II, and III, World War I, II, Cold War, Korean War, and Vietnam, Gulf War, Afghanistan, and Iraq. And as you can see, man, look at the pattern. So it starts from World War I, World War II. But now looks like they're pretty much fighting Russian allies there. And then we'll just blitz through these ones and just read the title of it. So it says foreign powers lavish money and attention on the Republic leaders. It says profits made overseas shape the Republic's international policies. And it says the collapse of the middle class, and that's important, and that's a video in itself, which I might, Lord's will, get into. In that the middle class is probably the most important class that there is within any government setup. When you lose the middle class, you can forget about it, man. You can forget about your economy, you can forget about the damn government, all of that. It says in the period just before the Roman Republic's fall, the Roman middle class was crushed and destroyed by cheap overseas slave labor. This is not the same thing that you go out there in America and in England and all of that, man. All right, you pretty much ain't got no middle class, no middle class you can speak about. And that's exactly what happened in the Roman Empire before they crossed their middle class, before they went down. It says, we've witnessed rising income inequality and stagnating middle class and loss of American jobs to overseas workers who are paid less and have fewer rights. It says, number 7, gerrymandering. And it says, loss of spirit, right? Loss of the spirit of compromise. So you can read that article for yourself. You can see the title here, and you can search it out there. You'll be able to find it. But pretty much that was it yesterday. All right. Hopefully the audio is gonna come out. I'm gonna check it. I'm gonna check it this time before I upload it. And ultimately, man, you can see it clear as daylight. All right. That would say double honors to the apostles of GMS, honestly brothers that be pushing this truth in sincerity. Shalom.